I thought it'd be fun with the Combine here, Schultze, to go through some of the top 5 teams in the draft to get an early sneak peek at maybe what they're doing.
Hell yeah.
John Keim covering the Washington Commanders on the clock at number 2 for ESPN. You can find him on Twitter at John_Keim. Also the podcast, the John Keim Report. Find it on YouTube, and he joins us now. John, thanks for the time. I know you're super busy, and most of the time, people, when they talk to you, are, hey, John, tell me, is Washington's coach on a hot seat? I'm going to reverse it on you today because now we're a B1G football program out here out west with Washington and Oregon. You went to the Ohio State University, so I want to ask, is Ryan Day on the hot seat to you?
I know that he's on the hot seat. Well, let me say this. He has to win. They have to beat Michigan. I think they will get it done this year, but I know the fan base is not thrilled, but I think when you step back and you have some perspective, and I think pretty much 99% of the college teams would trade places with what Ohio State has done over the last however many years. So, but the fan base is restless. There's zero doubt about that. But, the other thing I wonder about too is whether he's on the hot seat from the administration, but you see all these college coaches leaving. And because of NIL and all these other things that are going on that, are they able to leave quicker before they're actually done with? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I think you're spot on personally with my view of it. I also just heard what you said and laughed because in my head you said patience, and I'm like, have you followed college football? Because that is not the sport for patience, despite how good Ryan Day has been.
I think they're out of patience with some of the stuff that's gone on. I don't think, but I do think that they've built a really strong, the recruiting has been off the charts.
Yeah.
The staff is still really good. So that's why I say I think almost every college team would trade places with what they have right now.
I do agree with that. Now, speaking of fan bases that are frustrated, Washington is definitely amongst the top of this because, John, for so many years, and yeah, they've had some playoff appearances, but largely have not been in the relevant conversation that they want to be. A new regime here. They turn over everything, owner, GM, coach, offensive play caller, all of it. I read your article on ESPN.com. You've written a couple of these recently on how they got to Dan Quinn, where they're at right now based on what you heard Adam Peters say. There's a lot of talk about quarterback, John, whether that's Drake May or Jaden Daniels. We played a Merrill Hodge clip a couple days ago where he basically canned him. He says Drake May is not a good prospect whatsoever. You don't know for sure, but if you were to lean one way, would you lean either way on Jaden Daniels or Drake May, assuming Caleb goes one?
It just depends on the day, to be honest, because there are definitely days I'm going to lean Jaden Daniels, and there are some days where you think that Drake May. But, I think gun to your head, I would go back and forth, and today I would probably say Jaden Daniels. I think each of those quarterbacks, well, here's a couple things to know. First of all, they've been looking for a quarterback for a long time, and they had Robert RG3, and he was a one-year flash for them, in part because of injuries and then in part because of other factors, including his own. And then you had, Kirk Cousins was there for a couple of years. They couldn't keep him. But by and large, this franchise has been searching for a guy for decades. So that's why they're going to take one. But now each of these guys has flaws. Daniels, you worry about him getting crushed in the NFL because he's a bit reckless when he runs, but he throws a beautiful deep ball. He has the escapability that they like, and he seems to appear tough. And I think I would put that with May as well. May was a lot more inconsistent last year than Daniels, and I think could that be the difference? So, but I think clearly they're going to take one of those guys. You cannot do anything but take a quarterback if you're at number 2.
Now, speaking of the quarterback conversation, you bring up Caleb Williams. Now, I saw that Adam Peters not really committal on whether or not they're going to trade up for him yet, but do you have a sense if the Commanders are super interested in doing that, like which way they're leaning, and if so, how much does Washington have to give up? Because, I don't know, going from 2 to 1 seems like you'd have to give up a little bit less than in years past for a number 1 draft pick.
Well, yes, except that if the quarterback is this good, then others will want to move up as well. So I think you'd have, if the Bears say, hey, the pick's for sale, then you're going to get other teams involved. So that takes the price up. So when you're trading up for a quarterback, it's just different. And so you're still going to have to probably give up multiple number one picks and probably, a couple other high picks this year to go up that one spot. This is a team that wants to build through the draft. So people have to understand that. When I say that, it's because are you really? It's not just you're getting Caleb Williams. It's you're giving up. You could have Jaden Daniels, for example, plus multiple high picks at tackle, at linebacker, at receiver, and the next year maybe as another position wherever it is, or would you rather have Caleb Williams? And this is a team that needs to build up its roster, and they know that. Dan Quinn keeps talking about recalibrating, but other people in that organization know it's a rebuild. When you're rebuilding, it's hard to give up that much draft capital for one guy. So I would have a hard time seeing that. Nobody has told me no, but I have a hard time seeing that just based on what I know about how they want to build.
John, if we remove the quarterback part of this, and I know it's a massive one for Commanders fans, DC sports fans, it's the biggest thing because they're two, but if we step away from quarterback, how much have you dove into Adam Peters' experience in his tenure with a team like San Francisco, Dan Quinn's experience from not only Seattle, Dallas, but also as a head coach of Atlanta? How much do you dive into both of their past experience and try to kind of see maybe the way that they will try to build this? You're so right of how valuable all these picks are that it might not be worth trading away because you can build up a lot in this draft. How much of their experience previous do you kind of project to try to get a read on where they might go in this draft?
Well, it's that. It's also just talking to people. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say I know. I mean, I talk to enough people here right now to know what their intentions are. And again, it is to build through the draft. But you can look at – but here the problem with that, the hard part with Adam Peters, he's never been in charge somewhere to say he's been in organizations that have approached it a certain way. It's through the 49ers were built largely through the draft and then a couple shrewd trades. Getting Trent Williams from this team was a shrewd move, and he's one of the best tackles. He's going to be a Hall of Fame tackle. So that they built a strong enough roster to withstand a poor trade for Trey Lance. That's how did you do that? Well, it was largely through the draft, and so you're not going to hit on every class, but if you hit it, you hit a couple of them, you're going to put yourself in a good spot. And so that's why I say I think that's what he'll do. And I don't think they have a lot of salary cap space available. I do not believe they're going to be these massive players in free agency. And I know Adam Peters has said that, but I think just everything I've heard since he's been hired about him and from others in the organization is it's always built through the draft. And they're going to spend some money, but I don't think it's going to be on these splashy signings like Dan Snyder did when he first owned the team way back when. So, but yeah, no, you do look at that to see, but you're looking for not only how they do it, but what kind of players they look for. The thing with Peters, though, to understand, he's never been in charge, so he's operated in with the Patriots as a scout, with the Broncos as a scout, the Niners as an executive, and he's been very good at identifying talent to fit respective schemes. I think that's his strength, but I definitely think they definitely want to build through the draft.
John, we're out of time, but I want to ask you, and I hate to say this, but as quickly as you can, does it just feel more stable? I know it's still so fresh with
dramatically different.
It does.
It's night and day. It's not even close. It's basically a different organization, and it's going to take a few years to fully turn it over to where they want it. But it is a massive, massive difference.
Yeah, good to hear, man. John Keim does a great job. Find his podcast on YouTube and does a great job for ESPN, ESPN.com, on Twitter @John_Keim. Now, we're not rooting for Ohio State, but good luck to your Buckeyes in the new B1G. Thanks for carving out a couple minutes for us. I know you're super busy at Indy. We appreciate the time, man, and the insight.
Thanks a lot for having me on. Enjoyed it.
There we go. Good stuff from John Keim of ESPN.com. And I was curious about that, how quickly it can just feel different. Yeah. And honestly, he's not rooting for him. That's not his job. But at the bottom dumps of the NFL being there for so long, you probably feel it right away. And I'm just curious if he had, and of course he has, because it's new owner, new GM, new coach, new everything.
Well, their offensive coordinator shunned the Las Vegas Raiders to take the Commanders' job. Yes, they have the number 2 overall pick, a quarterback that's something great to start with, better than what they have in Vegas. But it sounds like the culture in Washington made that move easy for him as well.